to Can't Stop the Movement. This event is hosted by Gospel Run and produced in partnership with our friends at Howard Brown Health and Census 2020. My name is Nyasha Nyamapfene, and I am the founder of Gospel Run. And I just want to give a warm welcome to our entire Gospel Run family. Shout us out in the comments as you come in. Let us know what team you represent, and let us know how you're doing during this season of COVID-19. I also want to say hello to the Chicago Fit for Life fam. Represent your voice, Siddiqu. I know you all are going to come in tonight, and we're looking forward to having a great time. So there's a lot we're going to do tonight. We're going to really just be here to give you love. Normally we would be meeting in person around this time as we kick into our training season for our Gospel 5K in June. We're not doing that. We are social distancing and staying healthy in place. Yes. And postponing the race into the fall and moving that into a virtual if things are still not safe in the fall. But in the meantime, we are coming to you live from Chicago with some of the folks who are on the front lines in our community, fighting for this health movement that we're all involved in. So welcome, everybody. We're also going to talk about the census tonight. You see the website at the bottom of your screen that will be there the entire night. If you have already completed your census, shout us out in the comments, let us know. If you have not completed the census, it only takes 10 minutes. We're going to be here the whole hour. Take a minute, get it done, and we'll be here when you get back. We know that our fight is constantly to let people know that our lives matter. Now we need to make sure that our lives are counted. So please complete your census. And of course, tonight we're going to talk about health. We are a public health organization. All of us have been here in this fight for health for more years than we can count collectively. And now the whole world is talking about health. So we're going to talk about COVID-19 and how to stay healthy during shelter in place and during this pandemic in general. And of course, it wouldn't be a Gospel Run event if we didn't jam a little bit. So we want to say thank you and shout out to the Clark sisters and shout out to Twinkie for ushering us in to this event tonight. And we're here to have a good time. So I want to introduce our amazing panel. But if you're just joining us, welcome to Can't Stop the Movement. I am Nyasha Nyamapfene, and we are joined by Assistant Secretary for the Illinois Department of Human Services, the illustrious Kia C. Coleman.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
He's working 7 days a week on both census and COVID-19 to make sure that the state has services available as needed. We also have the amazing Dr. Maya Green, who is regional, hello Maya, who is regional medical director for Howard Brown Health. She oversees their care for both the south and the west sides of Chicago, as well, including testing and care for COVID-19, which is what the focus is right now. But we've been partners with Howard Brown since they launched their first site in Inglewood on 63rd Street, and are just happy to continue to be in this fight together. And then, of course, we have Siddiqu, the trainer Muhammad, who's going to work you all out tonight. Many of you may remember him from warming you up at the Gospel Run 5K. So we are here for a preview. This time it's going to be 30 minutes instead of 5 minutes, but we're going to make sure you leave here with workout. And for those of you who are new to Gospel Run, we are a public health organization started here on the south side of Chicago in 2013. And our mission is to close the health gap. And we focus on lifestyle changes in the African-American community as a way to change health outcomes. And we've inspired thousands of sedentary families, men, women, and children to change their health lives by doing what they can do right now, which is lacing up and starting to get active. So we are still in this movement because we cannot stop the movement. And now more than ever, that is apparent. So welcome, everybody. Shout us out in the comments, and we are going to keep it moving. I am also a DJ for the first 5 minutes. So we're going to move into our conversation with Assistant Secretary Kia Coleman. One of the things we're here to talk about tonight is Census 2020. If you have not completed your census, please do so now. And I'm going to turn this down just a little bit so we can get all the goodness. Okay. So we have a very short time to pack in a lot. So Kia, let's just go ahead and jump right in, talking about the census. As you know, the theme of tonight's event is Can't Stop the Movement. Can you just start by talking a little bit about how important completing the census is to our health movement and to addressing the health disparities that now the whole world is seeing in such a glaring way?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Nyasha, for having me here. Really appreciate it and for giving this platform for the census. Census is so important. Federal funding for public health programs in Illinois is largely determined by Illinois' share of the population. And how do we know what our population is? It's by counting people, which is what the census is. It's super, super important. The more accurate the count is of our population, the more funding we'll receive, the more we can use for public health. And there is, it's never a great time when something horrible like this happens, but I will say it really underscores the need for public health funding and for the funding we need for our hospitals and for our first responders and for those kinds of services that support Black and Brown communities. The only way to do it is if we are counted, if we take the time to take the census to get counted.
Absolutely. And I think now we're in a position in this pandemic where people are needing to ask the government for help who never thought that they would.
Yes.
And so also people are sheltering in place. So maybe they have a little bit more time to complete the census this year than they did last go around. But we know historically that African Americans and Latinx communities are chronically undercounted in the census and the 2010 census by as much as 800,000.
Yes.
What is the impact? Can you talk a little bit about us being so underrepresented and undercounted and the impact of that?
Yeah, I mean, not the biggest thing, but one of the biggest things is the undercount. The effects of it last for a decade. So what we do now, we cannot address or correct until 2030. And so it's really important to take into account the time factor. So it's far and wide. The census determines if our communities are seen and prioritized by the government. Again, as you said, we've got time now at home. We can fill it out online. We can fill it out by phone. We can fill it out. The paper mailings are coming out. We can take the time to fill it out because every time we are undercounted as African Americans and in the Latinx households, it means less funding for, as I said, healthcare. How many commercials, how many times do we see on any of the news outlets that we're looking at that first responders, healthcare workers don't even have enough PPE? They do not have enough of that. You know what I mean? How do you do that? And I mean, Maya, I know you're going to be able to talk more about this, but we need to be able to get the money to allocate for healthcare, for schools, for fire and emergency services, and then roads and bridges, our infrastructure. That all gets allocated based on how many people the government believes are consuming those services. And how do we show that? We fill out the census.
Yep.
Absolutely. Just continuing on the question of being undercounted, do you think there are any misconceptions that our community might have about the census, or are there any things that you think they should know that they maybe just don't know about the census?
Yeah, I mean, that is such a fantastic question because disinformation is huge. And I think, without naming any names, just in the environment, the political environment we're in, there's so much that goes on in terms of disinformation. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about here, but just generally speaking, there are some myths. So one is the government, if you take the census, the government is tracking who is and who isn't a U.S. citizen. The reality is that there are no questions that ask citizenship status. However, just put a pin in what I said about disinformation. Think about how much time was spent on that. And it's not on the census, but it lingers in people's minds. So I am here to say that is not on the census when you fill it out. Another one is you only count the people in your family. That is not the case. You complete the census for anyone who's living in your house. And I feel like as Black and Brown people, one of the things that I love about being Black and being part of a people of color community is we are good for shacking up with like our family and our relatives and friends who need places to stay. We are really good for, allowing people who need a place to stay on our couch or for staying with people. We are really good for being hospitable, right? You count those people, not just the people that you're blood related to. It's the people who are in your home. And just to be clear, my shacking up meant just like, together. Whatever it is.
Shacking up can make it But I think what I'm hearing you describe is the village.
Yes, exactly. We are good for taking care of each other. And a lot of times that means being in a home together with people who you, again, are not blood related to. But that's an extension of us not counting blood as the only form of relation, as the only relational tie, So I just think that that's something that's really prevalent. So that's a myth. We want to make sure we count everyone who's with us. And then another myth is that our information will be shared with other government agencies. And the reality is that by law, the U.S. Census Bureau must keep that information confidential. So that is something that, we want people to know. It's not going to be shared broadly and widely. And the final thing I'll say is that it's just a general sort of attitude that sometimes people have just because they don't know that completing the census isn't important. And I've enumerated, here, a few ways that, and we all have, it is very, very important. In a few years, this country is going to be majority people of color. We need to be counting ourselves now. We need to make ourselves seen. We need to stand up and be counted and show ourselves.
Yeah, and I heard a quote from a brilliant woman one day, and she said, we used to be counted as 3/5 a person.
You are right. Who was that?
I remember who said that. Oh, you. Right. Okay. So we used to be counted as 3/5 a person.
Yes.
And so go ahead. Yes.
No. So I'm glad that you brought that quotation up, and we were having one of our conversations and riffing like we usually do. And if you think about it, from the very beginning, it's clear that the counting of people is a way to apportion resources and wealth, and Black people were counted as less than whole, 3/5 of a person. And this was a way to create a calculus so that people could get money. We are no longer in that current situation where legally we're allowed to be counted as less than whole. However, when we do not stand up all together as a community, we are discounting ourselves. We are not allowing ourselves to be fully counted. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up, Nyasha. And that was one of our many wonderful conversations that we always have. And yes, 3/5 of a person is a terrible part of the American legacy. And we can stop that for Black people, for brown people, for all people. And we can.
Awesome. Thank you, Kia. Again, if you've completed your census already, shout us out in the comments and let us know. If not, let's get to it. Let's do it. Let's transition as a segue and talk about COVID-19 because, we're here in Chicago. And when Auntie Lori put out that statistic about African Americans being 70% of the fatalities in Chicago, we became the national story, as so often we do. And so can you just give us an update on where that stands? Is that still the case, and kind of what's happening with COVID-19 in Illinois this day? Yes, go ahead.
Yes. So still the case. In addition to that, what we're saying is originally we thought our Latinx population wasn't being affected, and now we're finding out that they definitely are. I will tell you about 6 weeks ago when the COVID tents start popping up, just growing up here and seeing just historical patterns, I was like, okay, we're going to have to open up a tent on the South Side because just the way medical industry things, they're going to open it up in the medical district and they're going to open it up on the North Side. And then those agencies that are blessed enough to get the test will charge for them. And then if you look at the way the algorithm or the way we determine who gets a test was originally written, there's all kinds of things called implicit bias in that. So what implicit bias is how we go about our day in a structure that we're all born into, and our tradition or ways of life, no matter what background we are. We can be white, we can be Black, we can be Latin, no matter what, all of us, because we're born into the system, have been kind of grown up or indoctrinated, or it's our tradition in a lot of ways we don't see, to do things that create barriers for Black and brown people, and access for people who are not Black and brown. So for instance, when we first wrote the criteria to determine who needed to be tested, we started writing, oh, did you recently travel? Now, I am a living witness that Black people travel, right? Also, let's not feelings.
We have our traveling shoes on. Not right now.
We out here, Black girl travel, catching flights.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So, but I also, through the work I do, and I always was not in a place where I've experienced limitations and barriers to travel, such like, you have a travel opportunity. Well, did you get a passport? Did you get this? Did you get that? And so having traveled to London and China and India, where all these things on the list that made a person qualified to receive.
And can I ask you about that, Maya? Yes. Because I think initially, we just kept hearing there was no testing. We can't get tests, period. Mm-hmm. And now, we've been getting questions about that as well as Gospel Run. And we are sending people to the IDPH.gov website, IDPH, Illinois Department of Public Health.gov website, because it gives people a map of where all the testing sites are in the state, and you can just type in your city and your sites can come up. And then Howard Brown also is doing tests in Inglewood and Hyde Park and on the west side in Little Village. And I want to ask you about what you're saying about implicit bias and how that's playing out and what we're seeing with these disparities. So you and your team are on the south side of Chicago, on the west side, on the front lines with this COVID-19 crisis, both testing and treating people. A lot of people still feel like, it's overblown, or if it doesn't happen to someone in their family, it's not completely real yet. Being on the front lines, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing people come in feeling like they don't qualify. I'm seeing people that were turned away at other sites, at larger institutions that people look at as being, I don't want to see it on the forefront, but being leaders in the healthcare industry. And they're presenting, and for whatever reason, they don't fit the criteria, or the tester didn't feel like they were, had enough symptoms. They're not getting tested. And I've actually had people come to our tent that we've had to send to the ambulance that ended up in the ICU. Right. And the other thing, so we know that, another thing I'm seeing is something, and I'll move really fast because we've known it. You can look at the 1918 flu, and we've known this. This is, you can look at, so here's my hand: diabetes, high blood pressure, Hep C, COVID. I put Hep C in there because now there's a cure, or access to care or mental wellness. Any of these things, if this is a tree, this is the stalk, and this is the branches. We can cut off, say, Hep C, and hopefully, I speak it one day, we'll cut off COVID. This tree will grow another branch, because the problem was never the branches. It is the root of the tree, and that's inequity and lack of equity in social determinants of health and implicit bias, right?
Absolutely.
The other pattern I'm seeing, and I'll move fast, the other pattern I'm seeing we as a society do is when we see those numbers, we go through the motions or behavioral patterns as a society as being surprised, when in fact, you can look at the 1918 pandemic and the same thing happened. You can look at diabetes, the same thing happens. And I'm hoping for the day that we take all that energy that we're spending being surprised and pivot that into solutions that are immediate and long-term actions for our community.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and all of us have been working in this work for a long time, and now the rest of the world is seeing what we've been seeing. So none of us were surprised when this happened. But I feel like, when it comes to our communities, we have what we call the talk, right? With our boys and hopefully now with our girls about how to stay alive through a police encounter, because, you can't necessarily look at what other people are doing and feel like because they're doing it, that means we can do it, because the rules and the consequences are different for us. With COVID-19, it almost feels like do we need to have the talk for COVID-19? Because when you look at the disparate impact, it seems like, do we need to take more precautions because we are so much more devastated by this? And it's taken out folks in 2 days and 3 days. What is your message, Dr. Green, for the African American community about COVID-19 and how to stay healthy during this time?
Our message is, Nyasha, you're right on time right on time. You've been saying it for years. We need to get out. We need to exercise. We need to keep our bodies healthy, put in things that are living because they're going to then produce life. We're seeing things like people with diabetes, high blood pressure. Here is another statistic. I was on a call listed with diabetes, high blood pressure, asthma, all those other things, and comorbidities, cardiovascular disease was actually listed as a problem and a factor to determine whether or not a person was going to survive an episode of COVID was access to food. Wow. Access to food, right? And so access to food and the types of food are very, very important right now. Even my family, we love to cook. We eat everything, we try to limit it. But when this first hit, I said, guess what? We're going to have to take all that crazy stuff. I'm going to have to stop this flaming hot ministry I have. And I'm going to have to revert, I'm going to have to really put veggies in my body. I'm going to have to put things in my body to make my body efficient. Because if my body is efficient in the things that it processes, if I encounter COVID, it will also be as efficient as possible at kind of doing that. But the access to food was one of the things listed in a task force in the town hall as one of the factors that will determine whether a person is able to survive and not have a critical or even fatal outcome with COVID-19, which brings us back to what Kia is saying, right? So those food programs, SNAP benefits, those things, right? I was reading something that basically said to the Black community, missing data is going to equal missing dollars.
Yes.
So if that's one of the things I want to point out right now, definitely feed your body with life and feed your body with living things that are going to cause your body to have life. But missing data is equaling missing dollars. That's why we need to. And the last thing I'm going to say is nowhere in history can we account for another culture or a culture that historically were, for lack of a better word, oppressors to another culture. Okay, we're, never in history has that culture that was doing the oppressing came and unturned that. So oppressed cultures don't come out into a better place with the help of the oppressors. We have to do it for ourselves. So this census is a wonderful opportunity to stand up, speak for ourselves, let people know we're here. The other problem I see is the inability. So disinformation and misinformation. Disinformation is also when we don't even know how to talk to them. So if you look at what happened with that young man that had the party behind his mother's back, right? If you look and you listen to what he's saying now, of course, we're going to offer them life and structure and better options and things like that. But look at the fact that he belongs to a population that when we roll out our public health opportunities, when we roll out our policies and stuff like that, his demographic or his population wasn't even included, So it's not. And now we want him to listen. And even the ways we roll it out, we don't consider him. So why do we listen? So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to sit at their table and learn what the community has to offer to teach us. And I'm so glad we're here and doing things like this. So thank you.
No, I think that's great. I mean, I think we really need a youth-focused campaign because it's a very specific way and message. And, I think we also need a very specific campaign to healthy people because we're the carriers, the youth are the carriers, because, we don't have a national protocol really for how to deal with this. And so it seems like it's every state, every city, every family is on their own to decide how they're going to address COVID-19. And then it almost makes it feel like this is optional, you should wear a mask if you want to. And so I think, can you talk a little bit about the level of contagion and community spread, specifically within Black communities? Because when we look at the hotspots in Chicago, Inglewood, South Shore, Austin, Auburn, Gresham, and Chatham, those are the hotspots. And so do we need to take extra precautions to curtail that spread? Because that's very stark.
Absolutely. So if we look at the flu has something we call a R naught, or how contagious it is, or the level of reproducibility or transmission of a lot of times 1 to 2. That means if I have the flu, I'm going to pass the flu without doing hand washing. And if I forget to stop touching my face and stuff like that, I'm going to pass it to one person. That one person will pass it to another person. That one person it's like that hot potato game, right? The R naught of flu is 1. COVID or coronavirus
I'm sorry, the what of flu?
are not, or the rate of the reproductive ratio, how fast it passes from one, how well it transmits.
Got
I'll
it.
pass it to you specifically, and then you'll pass it to Kia, and then Kia will pass it to Siddiqu. And did I say that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And so that's how it happens, right? Coronavirus is a lot different. Coronavirus, if I get it, I'm going to pass it to all three of you and possibly 5 people. And then each of you will pass it to 5 people or 3 to 5 people, right? So it's 3 to 5 times, and sometimes they say double, but the research is showing 3 to 5 times more contagious than the flu, and then look at the outcome it's having. It's getting in our body, causing the body to have this hyper reaction, and that hyper reaction is causing lung problems, clotting problems, blood clotting problems. It's causing all kinds of problems, and it being novel, or we've never seen it before. That's why they call it the novel coronavirus. We've never seen this version of a coronavirus before. We can't tell or predict what it's going to do. So that's why, going back to what I was talking about cultures needing to take social responsibility for each other, we're going to have to take that. We're going to have to wear our masks. Yes. So yes, the requirement, especially in the requirement recommendation scientifically, and also the ordinance, right, that was given by the city and by the state is, as of May 1st, we're supposed to, when we're out, all have that mask on. That mask is keeping me from coughing and passing it to you if I have it. It's also protecting me if you have it and you happen to cough. So it's protecting us all. I'm washing my hands. I'm trying my best not to touch my face, and I'm social distancing. I like to call it physical distancing, because just because you're 6 feet away from somebody does not mean you're socially disconnected. And as a matter of fact, we're looking at ways to explore how this physical distancing can offer us or make us look into better ways to socially connect.
Yes,
right? So,
absolutely. I want to piggyback on that and bring you back in, Kia, because this crisis is also, thinking about a total health standpoint. We're seeing increases in domestic violence. We're seeing, increases in the mental health needs of our community. Can you talk about how people can access resources if they need help with mental health, with domestic violence, with child abuse, and for those people who are almost trapped in their homes?
Yeah.
So I would say there's a couple of things. One, if you can text 552020 for mental health services, you can text TALK, and you will be able to receive a call back from a mental health professional within 24 hours. So that number, that short code is 552020. And that's something that we stood up as a result of COVID, understanding that, like Maya was saying, we've been calling it social distancing. Just because you're physically distant doesn't mean you have to be socially distant. And yet, because some people are susceptible to loneliness, right? Or they haven't, as Dr. Green was saying, like, we haven't had a chance to really get used to this new normal. So we haven't recognized that we need to start thinking of connecting in different ways, right? So we may not have gotten there yet. And then the other thing is, some people are at home and they are in stressful situations, even if they're not in danger, but they feel stressed out. They want to work, they can't, they're not getting paid. So we recognize that people are afraid and stressed out in many cases, and they need someone to talk to. 552020 text. You can text TALK or hablar in Spanish, and you will receive a call from a mental health professional within 24 hours. So that's really exciting. Isn't that exciting? Okay. As far as domestic violence, also something else that we understand has been rising through this. It's a period of stress. It's a period where people are close. You do not have that release of being able to get out of the house. Kids are home. So that can be a powder keg for a lot of people. The best way right here is to go to the Illinois DHS, Department of Human Services website. Go to Help Is Here, and you will have all kinds of resources for suicide, domestic violence, drug addiction issue,
hotlines, helplines. I'm sorry, I'm trying to like pack it all in because I feel like I'm rushing against the clock. But
It's
help
okay.
us here.
Take your time, baby.
As they say, take your
Okay,
time.
good. Thank you. www. .dhs.illinois .gov/help us here, and you will be able to have all of these resources. And I can send that information as well if there's something.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'll give that link. And that lists all of the helplines and all of the resources that we have. And it is so important right now. I think just for a couple of things. One, to recognize that the current state that we're in, it is okay. The governor said this at one of his press conferences. It is okay to feel your feelings.
Yep.
This is such a really different thing. I love that Dr. Green was referencing the Spanish flu of 1918, because I feel like that's what we can reach back to kind of even find an analogy for what we're dealing with right now. That means it's before any of our lifetimes, unless we're all aging well, which is possible, but it's before.
I'm just saying.
Right. Birth date 1909.
Oh, wait, no, never mind. I take that back.
But it's a really different time. And so feel your feelings, reach out for help, talk to people, connect with your friends and your people in different ways. I love that Maya said that. We are not physical, but we can make some extra time for video conferencing if you're not used to it, FaceTiming, download Duo, I don't know, like whatever these apps are where you can connect with people that way, write some letters, talk on the phone, whatever we can do. And then for those things where you need help, domestic violence hotline, definitely, and the child abuse hotline, all of those resources we have listed on the DHS website. And it's probably like about 10 of them. And I'm going to send them so you can send them out afterwards.
Great. So speaking about things that we can do and resources and tools that we can leverage to be healthy now, Siddiqu, I want to kick it back to the lifestyle conversation, because I think our goal is to have, for those of us who are blessed to make it through this, come out stronger from this crisis than we were going in. Can you talk about ways to stay active that people may not be thinking about, and just how you think about how to stay healthy during this crisis that can help people, give them a set of tools?
Absolutely. It's a part in my second book where an individual goes to see the doctor, and the doctor informs the individual that he has diabetes. And the response is, it's okay, it runs in my family. And then the doctor says, the problem is no one runs in your family. So one of the things that I try to just instill in everyone is just to understand that we have generational blessings. We also have generational curses.
Yes.
And a lot of people are saying, and it was great what Dr. Green has said, well, now is the time for me to eat healthy and to start being healthier. Yes. Well, but what happens is it's almost as if we're trying to build an umbrella in the middle of a storm.
Yes.
So if we understand the importance of lifestyle, if we understand staying committed to cardiovascular routines, resistance training, stretching, all of these things, then when something like COVID-19 shows up on the scene, then a person's body is more equipped to fight the disease. So seeing the numbers extremely high in Black and brown communities is really no surprise, because when you go down the list of every disease, the numbers are extremely high in Black and brown communities. And one of the reasons that they're extremely high is because, guess what? It's some things that we will not talk about. If someone 50 or 100 pounds, it's not really a conversational piece for most people. In fact, you might encourage someone to not say anything so you don't hurt that person's feelings. But we're seeing now with the disease on the scene, we know that if someone has asthma, if someone has diabetes, if someone has hypertension, guess what? It's a chance that they may not survive this actual disease. Yeah. So we run into a situation where, should we not say something or should we say something? How important is running a 5K, as the gospel run? How important is it exercising 30 minutes a day, increasing your cardiovascular endurance, knowing that a disease may come or may not come that's an upper respiratory disease? So I encourage everyone to just stay in tune with what the things that you are supposed to do. If you're doing something that you know isn't right, there's going to be a time where it catches up to you.
Yes. Yeah.
And I go all around Black and brown communities in every community and try to make sure that people understand that exercise is fun. And when something is fun and not something that you're doing to survive, then what happens is that's something that you can do every day.
I agree. I think giving people things that they can do that are fun. I'm a big advocate of dancing and just doing a jam session in your house until you sweat and then keep going.
Yes.
Obviously, walking, running. We're going to have a video for you today after Siddiqu is done with his workout. You'll be able to access that later. There are YouTube videos that you can access to get workouts. Stretching, people don't mention stretching enough. I'm glad you mentioned that, Siddiqu, because that is absolutely critical.
Well, absolutely. From age 20 to age 70, the average person will lose 70% of their range of motion. When there's a conversation, there was a study done on centurions, the individuals that live 100 plus years. And, you would think that these people are just eating extremely healthy. But across the board, they found out that these individuals have a consistent stretch routine. So when someone thinks that they're aging, many times what's happening is their muscles are becoming more and more constricted. So I can't stress the importance of stretching enough.
Absolutely.
Is that reversible?
Yes.
I'm gonna start stretching. I'm gonna and then as soon as I get off this call, boom.
It's so important. Yeah, you see someone, you can see someone. Two people can be walking from a distance, and you can assume that one person is older by their gait, by how the individual walks, because their range of motion may be different. They can be the exact same age, but that stretching, it really turns back the hands of time.
Absolutely. Awesome. We do have a question from our audience, and that question is, I think it's directed toward you, Dr. Green. Is it safe to run outside long distances during the pandemic?
Well, it depends. What I've really been encouraging people, because the Gospel Run, we started being affiliated with the Gospel Run. Now I'm on the Gospel Black Runners Association, Black Marathoners Association on Facebook, and I'm seeing all the running and things like that. Something I'm seeing is when someone is taking a run kind of in their own space. Long distance running can mean two things. You're running a long distance in your own space, in a dedicated space, or it can mean you test Auntie Lori and try to run on a lakefront. I don't think that's safe. I don't think you want to.
Well, okay, so there's the treadmill for sure, but what about solo runs by yourself while you're still honoring social distancing? But can you run alone by yourself, not on the lake path, but maybe on the street?
Yes. So in a defined space, not taking up too much space, and then being aware where if you see other people starting to join, then you stop that path and you kind of constrict your path. The only thing I've seen happen, especially with some runners in Chicago, is everybody, and that's the danger of COVID. That's one of the dangers that we don't see. COVID is two things. It's the way the virus is performing, and it's the way we are performing. And either we will beat this virus together or we will fail to beat it together. We don't have, coronavirus does not give us any other choice, right? So yes, we do want people to run. We do want that trail meal. But what I've seen just transparently is, yes, the running is healthy. I know of 3 people that actually accidentally met up because they felt like they were the one that was going to take that park run at that time of day. And it kind of collided with the recommendations for the city and the state for social distancing. So if you're keeping your social distancing, if you're maintaining that, and if you're being authentic, because remember, we're talking about social distancing, but I want to submit that physical distancing is what I call it, but social distancing has social responsibility too. It doesn't mean you can disconnect from the ordinances of the city and state. It doesn't mean you can disconnect from other human beings, because coronavirus is thriving in our ability that we have to disconnect from each other. So if you're keeping your social responsibility, running is healthy for you. It also is great for your mind. I'm one of those people, like if I see myself kind of going in those spaces Kia mentioned before, I know a run can turn that around. Music can turn that around, and there's support, and everybody's different. For me, taking that run or pushing myself to take that run when I see myself going there works wonders, and maintaining a running.
And you can have a mask on and still run.
Yes.
You can keep a mask on. In fact, I would encourage people, just purely from a trainer standpoint. I mean, I would tell people, put a mask on every single time you go for your run.
Excellent. So I think we have a tremendous list of resources between idph.gov for testing sites, idhs.gov for mental health and wellness resources. Is that right, Kia?
Mm-hmm.
And then a list of things that I think people should write a list of all the things that they can do to get their exercise in each day and be creative. One person brought up gardening the other day. I thought that was brilliant. And as long as you're maintaining social distance, it's incredibly important that we keep moving and don't stop the movement. So I just want to say thank you to Assistant Secretary Kia Coleman and Dr. Maya Green for being a part of this. I know you guys are not sleeping very much at all these days. So I'm just grateful that you gave us the time that you did. And we are going to transition into our workout for the evening so we can practice what we preach and give you something concrete to take home and just say thank you, ladies. Yes.
That's right.
And for every exercise that we're going to show today, and also for stretch routines and anything, our Facebook page, Facebook Chicago Fit for Life, we have, I think, about 120 videos. We have pictures, we have demonstrations. So we also want to be a resource if you have any fitness questions. I'm a certified trainer as well as certified nutritionist. And we have immune boosting foods, things that you should put in your diet, things you should take out. So, and we'll make sure that that link is available as well.
And I just want to put out a plug. The American Heart Association guidelines for physical activity is 150 minutes a week of moderate exercise or 75 minutes a week of rigorous exercise. So the challenge that we're putting out is to maintain those guidelines throughout shelter in place. Because we want to build our immune systems such that if and when this thing comes back, our bodies are stronger and better able to fight the disease and less vulnerable to the virus. So with that, I just want to say thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful evening. We're going to transition and Siddiqu is going to stay with me. Siddiqu is at his gym right now. He's setting up to lead you guys in a workout. We see the question about modified exercise and stretching programs. Siddiqu has that on his website, Chicago Fit 4 with the number 4, Life, Life. I saw on Facebook recently, someone said people are going to come out of this Corona period either on Team Buff or Team Puff. And so our commitment is to support you in coming out on Team Buff. So with that, I want to turn it over to Siddiqu to get you worked out. If you don't have your workout clothes on, you have time. Go get them together now because he's going to be with us for the next 30 minutes. And I just want to say thank you all for joining us.
Hey, what up, man?
Okay, Siddiqu is still preparing to lead you. So I just want to say, regarding the Gospel Run community, we are still inviting you to be a part of it. Like many of your institutions, we have decided to figure out how to continue to fulfill our mission in a virtual space. And that's what this event is about. There will be more to come, ways to support you through content, but also ways to support you through community and fitness. So with that, let's get it started with Siddiqu the Trainer Muhammad.
Okay, everyone, how you guys doing? I'm glad you guys have been tuned in. Going to make it very, very simple. We have a space inside my office about the size of a living room. So these are everything. I brought my exercise partner in the back. So we're going to be doing some demonstrations. Once I turn on the music, I'm going to be stopping just to make sure I explain everything. The first part of our workout is our cardiovascular endurance part, okay? Stay in tune. So everyone, we're going to start right here. I just want everyone to just step out side to side, just like this. Alternative version to a jumping jack. Side to side, very, very simple. You got it. Stay at this pace. Come on. Exercise. Stay in shape. Fight COVID-19. Third John 2 and 1. I wish above all things you were prospering, be in good health, even as your soul prosper. That's what we're doing right now, everybody. Stay in tune. Now I'm gonna change it up. Standing crunch, everybody, right here. Just stand. With each exercise, we're going for about a 30-second count. There you go. Standing tall. Just right here. You guys got that? Doing good. There you go. Now you just gonna be more right back here. 30 seconds each move. If you want to pick up the pace, you're going right here. Going into jumping jacks. Got that? It's easy. Turn your living room into a gym. Give me 5 more seconds. Doing good. Now you're here. This pace right here. It's too easy. Guess what? Add a jump. 30 seconds each movement. You guys got that? Get your heart rate up. 5 more seconds. Our next move is a power move. Kick. Left foot. Kick. Stepping back. Kick. Stepping back. This is the movement right here. All I'm doing is pick up the pace. Left leg. Kick. Step. Kick. Step. Kick. Step. It's fun and it's easy. Now I'm about to switch. Right foot. Stepping back. Kicking with the right foot. Stepping back. Stepping back. Kick. 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 Starting to warm up. Now, fast feet, as fast as you can go. 30 seconds. And your feet moving fast. 30 seconds. 15 more seconds. Let's go. You guys warmed up? Okay, we got some stretching for you guys. You asked about stretching. My partner in crime, Miss Lacey.
So I want you to drop your arms. Drop your arms. Going up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One side. One side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All the way. Hold it up. Reach it all the way up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Go touch yourself. Go down. Touching yourself. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Have your water. Have your towel. Now we're gonna do a boxing routine. Right hand up. Right foot forward. Right hand up. Right foot forward. Hands up. Now all you're gonna do is just bounce. 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 Just like this. Just going back and forth. Now you're gonna throw your arm out. Jab. Right here. Just jab it. Just get a little rhythm going. Nice and relaxed. We got the music going. Now I'm gonna take this hand I'm jabbing with, and I'm gonna speed back. Still bouncing back and forth. Right here. Add the other arm. Got it. Just like that. Bring it around. Get that bounce. Left hand up. Left leg forward. Hands up. Bouncing back and forth. Jab, 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 jab. We're going 30 seconds. Punch it out. Got it? This is what we got to do. Stay healthy. Come out of quarantine. Best shape of your life. Feedback. And the other arm. Looking good. Come to the middle. Just going back and forth. Grab your imaginary jump rope and jump. Using your imaginary jump rope. If you want to be fancy, get fancy. It's all about you. Right here. This is how you get it thing. Heart rate should be elevated. It's just heart. Ready, Lexi? Get your heart rate down. We're still boxing though. Still boxing. You got it.
Move your arms. One down the squat. Down the squat. Hold up arms. One side is Siddiqu. Bring it up. Feedback this way. Which side? Back to squat. Punch it out. Keep going.
You guys got that?
Let's feedback.
Looking good, everybody at home.
Squat. Punch out.
We fighting it. Let's go 20. We appreciate the citizens for bringing us out. Want to be counted and want to be healthy, everybody.
Get lower.
Go down.
Feedback this way.
Looking good.
Switch sides. Squat. Punch out. Good job. Good job.
Everybody still with us? So we done with the warm-up. We done with the warm-up. You guys got cardio. You got the boxing. Now what we're gonna do is a little cardio scope. Very simple movements, but to tone up your entire lower body. Hands up, bend your knees. The first exercise is gonna be a step to the side, and then a step back. Step to the side, then a step back. Gonna do the same thing on the other leg. Step to the side, then step back. 30 seconds, step to the side, then step back. After that, we're gonna perform a squat. Stick your glutes out, all your pressure on your heels. Going down, going up, nice and controlled. Going down, going up. The third exercise is an isotonic hold, where you're just gonna hold for 30 seconds. 3 exercises. You guys with us? Feet together, arms up, down. Starting off to the side, let's go. And back. We're going 30 seconds. We're sculpting. Losing the weight and toning up. Since 2020. You want to be counted and you want to be healthy. Let's go. 7 more seconds. Fight through the pain. In this world for me, we're switching. Side, back, side, back, side, back. Let's go. 30 seconds each leg. Let's go. You want to be counted and you want to be healthy. Next, we got the squats. Done. Open up in the middle. 30 seconds. We're going. Squat and up. Squat and up. Let's go. Squats. Up. Let's work. Squats. Up. Let's go. Squats. Up. Squat. Up. Squat. Up. Squat. Up. Squat. Up. Squat. Up. You're looking good. Fight through it. Now you're just going to hold. You're holding in squat position. You stay down. You stay down. I want you to know I can see you out there. Stay down. Since it's 2020, we're going to be counted and we're going to be healthy. You're right at home. Your living room. Working out. Getting in the best shape of your life. This quarantine, the best thing that ever happened to you. Done. Clap it up. How you guys feeling? Feeling good? We're starting at the beginning. We're going back to our cardio. Right here. We're doing 30 seconds. I'm not cheating you. I got a stopwatch. I got a stopwatch. 15 more seconds. 5 seconds. Fight through it. It's fun. Right here. Crunch. 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 Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. 15 seconds. Fight through it, everybody. 10 seconds. Let's fight. Keep pushing. You're going to be counted and you're going to be healthy. Thank you to the census 2020. Now we jabbing. Wait, are we doing everything over again? Absolutely. We just started. Keep jabbing. Now speed back. Now both. Looking good. Looking good. Turn it around. Now Jack. Now Jack. Now Jack. We boxing. Fighting for our help here. Let's go. Now both. 5 more seconds. Now to the middle. Be together. How you guys feeling? Side, back, side, back, side, back, side, back, side, back. It's fun. We going. 5 more seconds. Let's work. Switch. Back. Side. Back. Side. Back. We working. You guys gotta win. Putting in the work. Quarantine, the best thing that ever happened to you. Be in the best shape of your life when this is over. Take a deep breath. How you guys feeling? Y'all still there? We didn't lose anybody, did we? Partner, come check. I want to make sure that we got everybody still there. Because we done with your warm-up. Oh yeah, that was just a warm-up. We're going to do a couple stretches. Take them through some stretches.
So I want you to open your legs, go touch both of your toes, go open up a hole for 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you're going to go to one of your legs. Only grab one of your legs. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go to the other leg. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring your feet in, touching your toes. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I want you to reach it all the way to the top. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you're going to have one hand touching your back while you're grabbing your elbow. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch sides. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good job, partner. Good job. You understand stretching. From age 20 to age 70, the average person will lose 70% of their range of motion. Most people age in their flexibility, their ability to be flexible, right? So that's how you're aging. When you talk about upper respiratory diseases, when you talk about things like a cold, you talk about things like a flu, you're talking about things about an immune system. We have to strengthen our immune system through exercise, fighting cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure. These are not diseases that don't have solutions. What's happening is the solutions aren't talked about. Water, your body is 75% water. 9 out of 10 people have never been hungry, especially when we're talking about Americans. You've never been hungry. We have an abundance of food. What happens is that people are dehydrated. Make sure that you're drinking your water. The last thing I'm going to show you is an ab routine. How to lose your stomach. This is very, very important. A lot of people at home really have tuned in just for this secret alone. I'm going to show you at home what you can do. Relax your shoulders. Do this exercise every single day and you will lose your stomach. Relax your shoulders. Turn your head as far as you can over your right shoulder. Your other right. Hold it. Now turn your head as far as you can over your left shoulder. Now come back to the middle. Whenever anyone asks you if you want something to eat, repeat that motion. Turn your head as far as you can over your right shoulder, as far as you can over your left. Right, left, right, left. Just say no. 3,500 calories are in 1 pound of fat. If you want to lose weight, you have to eat less. Many people out there are just eating out of boredom, but I'm going to show you some ab exercises. Follow. Sitting down, we're still in our living room, having a good time. Music is playing, keeping it really simple. I want everyone right here, just leaning back. Starting right here. Arms up, arms down. Arms up, arms down. Arms up, arms down. Let's go. Let's go. You got it. Now we're gonna do a twist. Feet up, or feet on the ground. Just gonna twist it. Stay on beat with me though. All right, everybody? There you go. Working the stomach. Got the first one. Got the second one. Here goes the third one. Legs out straight. Lean your back. Bring one leg up and down. Now we're gonna stay on beat, everybody. Let's go. Just like that. With each exercise, 15 to 30 seconds. First exercise. Legs together. Leaning back. Arms up. Yeah. Working that stomach. Working that stomach. Second exercise. Feet on the ground or in the air. Just like that. 15 to 30 seconds each exercise. Third exercise. Legs straight. Leaning back. In and out. And I mentioned all these exercises we're making available. Everything we're showing today is video demonstrations, workouts you can do at home. Put them all together. Great ab workout for everybody. The first exercise we showed you, you're going to eat a little bit less food. Then the next 3 exercises we showed you to tighten up that midsection. You got cardiovascular, you got stretching, you got resistance training, boxing. These are the tools that you need to be in the best shape of your life. So as diseases come and diseases go, your body is immune. I want to thank the Census 2020. I want to thank the Gospel Run and my partner who's hiding in the back. Come on out here, partner. They want to see you. I want to thank my exercise partner. You've seen her before on WGN, ABC News, Fox News. Every workout that I do, I have her right alongside with me. She has a cookbook. And I want to thank everybody that tuned in and really enjoyed. I'm going to sign out. And I appreciate everything. And especially Miss Gospel Run herself. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Siddiq. Oh my gosh. Hopefully you all enjoyed that workout. Thank you all for joining us for this event tonight. We pray that you all are keeping well and keeping safe throughout this time. Our love is with you. Our prayers are with you. Our village is needed right now more than ever. So please keep a village mentality in all that you do. And remember that we are now more dependent on each other than we ever have been. And we're all in this together. So thank you to the Census 2020. And thank you, Siddiq. Siddiq, can you let people know where they can find you?
Absolutely. Chicago Fit, the #4 Life, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Siddiq_the PT, everything in Google. We made over 120 videos available for free. Every radio segment we've done, TV appearance, and even this exercise is also on our Facebook fan page.
Thank you. And you guys for testing, idph.gov for testing and throughout the state, type in the name of your city and it'll show you your locations, idhs.gov for mental health resources, and gospelrun.com. Catch us on all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And thank you all for joining us. Be safe, be well, and be a village.